Blind love. John walked home, his thoughts heavy. How much longer would Catherine keep playing games with him? One moment she seemed interested, the next she acted like he didn't exist. He had already told his mother that he planned to propose. She was thrilled. Catherine came from a good family. But Catherine, she had no shortage of ways to turn him down. "Come again, sweetheart," she'd laugh. "Do whatever you want." John sighed, kicking a loose stone on the road as he passed by a rundown shack at the edge of town. An old widow lived there with her blind niece. As he approached, he saw the woman shoving the poor girl out the door, cursing at her with unrestrained fury. What struck John the most was that the blind girl didn't cry. She didn't beg. He couldn't just walk past. "Ma'am, please, have mercy, let her be." "And who do you think you are, boy?" the woman shrieked. "Mind your own business and keep walking, little hero." She yanked the girl harder, her nails digging into the frail arms. John felt his stomach twist. The girl's clothes were in tatters, her skin bruised, her face barely visible beneath all the filth. He could hardly tell what she even looked like. Without thinking, he grabbed her hand. "I'm taking her with me." The woman burst into laughter. "Oh, this is rich. Have you lost your mind? What, you gonna make her your bride?" She cackled so hard that tears welled in her eyes. "I will," John said firmly. The woman's laughter stopped. She dropped onto the doorstep in disbelief. The girl stood frozen, her unseeing eyes fixed on him. "Will you come with me?" John asked. She said nothing, but silent tears ran down her cheeks. "You'll just leave me on the side of the road," she whispered. "And then where will I go?" "I won't," he said, and that was all there was to it. John walked forward, holding the girl's hand. The widow didn't say another word. Stunned, she stood by the fence, watching them disappear down the road. She had always believed no one would ever take in such a burden. She had wished for the girl's death, blaming her for all the misfortunes in her own life. "John, where are you taking me?" the girl asked. "How do you even know it's me?" he questioned. "You can't see." "I may be blind, but I'm not stupid," she replied. "I recognized your voice right away. I may live in the shadows, but I hear and see in my own way." John glanced at her, surprised. There was something unusual about this girl, no doubt. But he had already made up his mind. He wouldn't turn back, no matter what. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl gave a bitter smile. "My aunt called me all sorts of things. But a long time ago, my mother used to call me Natalie." "Natalie? That's a beautiful name," John said with a small smile, knowing full well what awaited him at home. But he kept walking forward, his steps steady, because now he knew this girl was his destiny. And as she walked beside him, her bare feet tapping against the cold ground, she took her first deep breath of freedom. Because as long as he held her hand, she was afraid of nothing. Of course, the moment John told his mother and sisters about his decision, the house erupted into chaos. They didn't just refuse to accept her as family, they didn't even want to look at her. Did it hurt Natalie? Number she had never known warmth or kindness. Her life had been nothing but a cold, dark hole. And yet, she had always believed that one day, warmth would come. Because as they say, goodness attracts goodness. John ignored the shouting and judgment. He led Natalie inside and simply said, "From now on, this is your home." His mother and sisters fell silent. They knew that if John walked out, their only provider would be gone, and they couldn't afford that. Fortunately, Natalie couldn't see the hateful stares thrown her way. And that was the thing. She feared nothing. Funny how one small person can completely change someone's life, simply by being there. Just like that, without words, only by holding her hand. When sorrow is shared, it feels twice as light. For a time, they lived together in quiet peace, or rather in silence. John fell deeply in love with Natalie, not out of pity, but because of her kind heart, her unwavering devotion. She became his most precious treasure, something he feared losing. When Catherine heard about it, she lost her mind. She refused to believe it. Panic set in. She schemed, trying to find a way to win John back. She went to his sisters, tried following him around, but it was as if he no longer saw her. He didn't pay her a second glance. His heart and mind were consumed only by Natalie. And so, the household carried on, living somewhere between quiet hatred and open love. But then one day, a cold wind blew through town, and John was drafted into the army. He tried to put on a brave face as he said goodbye to his wife, but his heart ached. Not just because of the long separation, but because he was leaving a helpless girl in the hands of his family. Funny, isn't it? Sometimes a stranger will give you their last piece of bread, while your own flesh and blood will drive a knife into your heart. But things didn't go the way he feared. Neither his mother nor his sisters mistreated Natalie. They lived in peace, even inviting her to the table, sometimes even helping her. By then, Natalie had already adapted to her new home, doing whatever she could to help around the house. It was almost strange how their hearts had softened toward her. She let go of the past quickly, waiting patiently for her John. Time passed. Autumn arrived. There wasn't much left to do around the house anymore. The girls asked their mother for permission to go into the woods to pick mushrooms. Why not? At least it's something to do, she agreed. Catherine showed up too, insisting that Natalie come along with them. Their mother hesitated. I don't know. What if you get lost? You won't be able to find your way back on your own, she said. Nat, maybe you should stay, she added softly. A warmth spread through Natalie's chest. The woman cared about her. Mom, I'll be fine if the girls are with me, she said gently. Her mother said nothing, just gave her a long, uneasy look. Something about her expression twisted with concern. Of course, the girls, along with Catherine, had planned this long ago. They had been acting so sweet, lulling everyone into a false sense of security. But what kind of caution could a girl like Natalie have? She couldn't see, neither with her eyes nor with her heart. She was blind in every sense, because she so desperately wanted to believe in goodness. And this time, she didn't sense the danger. Not until the silence around her became deafening. Not until she called out again and again, and no one answered. Only then did Natalie realize they had left her there on purpose. The sisters returned late. The moment their mother saw them walk in without Natalie, she clapped a hand over her mouth, her face draining of color. What have you done? Oh, Lord, help me. I knew something was wrong. You've ruined 2 lives. She wailed, her voice trembling with panic. The girls froze, fear creeping into their eyes. They had never even considered that Natalie might be pregnant. To them, she was still nothing more than an unwanted burden. Someone to be ignored, teased, dismissed like a child. They simply couldn't accept that their handsome, strong brother had fallen in love with someone like her. Their fear grew worse as night fell. The forest was dense. She'd never make it out on her own. Mom, what do we do? The younger sister whispered. Their mother didn't answer. She just turned and walked inside, pale as a ghost. Panic set in. The girls turned on Catherine. This is your fault. You have to fix it. But she only laughed in their faces. None of them dared to go into the woods. The night was coming fast. Wild animals roamed those parts. And worse, there were swamps, deep and impossible to escape. By the time the sisters returned home, a crowd had already gathered outside the house. Their mother had called the neighbors for help, desperate to find Natalie. People weren't just shocked, they were furious. How could you let a blind girl go into the woods alone? Suspicion turned toward the sisters. The looks on the villagers' faces made it clear. They knew this wasn't just an accident. They searched all night, but by morning there was no sign of Natalie. Not even a single footprint. By the time John returned home, Natalie was gone. The good people of town told him everything. A secret like that could never stay buried. He couldn't forgive them. Not his sisters. Not even his mother. Without a word, he left. No one ever saw him in that town again. The sisters stayed behind, with their mother. No man ever came to ask for their hand. Bad reputations are hard to escape, because the truth is, far too often those who have eyes and a heart remain blind and unkind.